Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today's video is the third in a 12-part series designed to assist you in effectively preparing for the Unit 1 exam. We're going to be looking at payment methods that people use to pay for various goods and services. Thanks for leaving a like and make sure you subscribe for future related videos within the series. In this video, we're going to look at payment methods. We're going to look at what payment method decisions depend on. We're going to also look at what we can do to make payments abroad, and we're going to look at any other key information that may be relevant. So, payment methods. These are ways of making payment for goods or services. Money is anything that is commonly accepted as a form of payment. I've done a separate video on money, its features and functions. I'll leave the link in the description. Cash is one form of this, where we hold physical items, these are notes and coins, which resemble value of a currency. Now, payment methods are the way that a buyer chooses to compensate the seller of a good or service that is also acceptable to the seller. So what payment methods are there? Well, firstly, cash. Good because it's easy to budget with cash, but it's susceptible to loss, to being stolen, and of course it may not be as convenient as some of the other methods we'll come on to shortly. Standing order. Now, standing order, if you have a bank account, you can set up a standing order. A standing order essentially is where you instruct the bank to send a set amount, that is a set amount that you have chosen, to a receiver each week, month, year, etc. So a standing order is a set amount that you direct your bank to send. A third payment method is direct debit. This is where you authorize a company to take out whatever amount is needed from them. For example, if you pay your water bill via direct debit and you use more water in a specific month, the water company may choose to increase the amount that you pay out. You are essentially giving them authorization to take as much money as they need in order to pay their bill. The fourth payment method we'll be looking at is online banking. Through online banking, you can quickly and easily log on to your online bank and then transfer money between your own accounts or to other people's accounts. Word of warning, many passwords are quite easy to guess, like the one in brackets, so make sure your online banking password is difficult to guess. PayPal is one of many online payment services, but perhaps the one that is most well known. PayPal essentially is an online payment service provider which allows you to pay money to anybody else in the world who also has a PayPal account. Now, BACS, which is short for Bankers Automated Clearing Service, means that you can transfer money from one bank account to another bank account. It's run by the BACS Payment Scheme Ltd Limited Company, and it can take up to 3 days. Checks are also a payment method that have been used significantly in the past, but potentially less so nowadays. Essentially, you're writing out an IOU, so you promise to pay a certain person a certain amount, and then you sign your check and hand it over. A banker's draft is essentially where you are getting the bank to sign a check from your account on your behalf, so therefore this is much more secure, some would say, and less likely to bounce than a personal check. The next one is payment cards. Now, there are a number of different payment cards that you could use to make payments. The first one is a debit card. This is a type of card provided by all the major banks and building societies that enables you to make a payment. It might be through chip and pin, it might be through contactless, and the money will come out of your account directly as soon as you make the payment. A prepayment card, on the other hand, is where you've prepaid, you put money on to the card, and that's how you pay. Store cards and credit cards are very similar in nature. A credit card is something that you use in order to make purchases, and you're essentially borrowing money from the bank in order to make that payment. You get 56 days of interest-free time in order to pay back the money to the bank, but if you exceed that, then the bank will start charging you interest. And if the bank charges you interest, you have to make a minimum payment each month. In many cases, it's approximately 5% of the outstanding balance. Now, a store card is a type of credit card which is issued by a particular store. For example, you might have an M&S store card, or you might have a Tesco store card. That is essentially a credit card that is provided by a specific store, and this often comes with incentives. For example, it might give you extra points or incentive schemes in order to shop at that particular store. Very useful if you are very loyal to one specific shop. Now, a contactless card with debit cards, prepayments, store cards, and credit cards. You can use a chip and pin reader in order to input your PIN number in order to authorize a transaction, or you can use a contactless card transaction. Now, it's recently been updated, so there's a £100 limit. Essentially, what you do is you touch your card to the card reader, and that will automatically and very conveniently mean the money leaves your account, or in the case of a credit card, leaves the bank's account. CHAPS stands for Clearinghouse Automated Payment System. Now, it's a system that enables money to be transferred from one bank account to another, much like BACS, but with CHAPS, it goes out on the same day. It's a method of payment that's used when the amount is over £20,000, such as mortgages, but it does cost a significant amount, so £25 to £30 per transaction. But of course, if you are transferring a significant amount and you need to make sure it gets there on the same day, then CHAPS is a good way to make sure it happens. A postal order is something that you can go to the post office, you hand over money across the counter, and they will write you a postal order. It's similar to a cheque in nature, but what happens is you give the postal order to someone in the form of payment, and then they have to go to the post office then in order to cash it and get the money back. Cryptocurrency is an emerging form of currency and an emerging payment method. However, it is very rarely accepted as a form of payment at the moment. So investors in cryptocurrency, you could say, are speculative in nature at present. Of course, the infrastructure could improve in the future and it could be more widely accepted. However, at present, it is not a widely accepted payment method. So what does the decision depend upon which payment method you choose? First of all, convenience might be a big factor. Online banking is a great way to pay someone for a good or service without leaving the comfort of your living room. Likewise, contactless payments are a lot quicker than entering your PIN or paying through cash. Also, it depends upon which method the seller accepts. As we mentioned, cryptocurrency is very rarely accepted as a form of payment. Likewise, many sellers now do not accept things like checks. Therefore, you'll have to fit in with what the seller accepts. Also, how quick the transaction is. As we mentioned, CHAPS is a very quick way of making a payment for something, whereas something else like a check or a postal order has to be cashed in order for you to get the money back. And also how safe the method is perhaps a thing which might determine the choice you make. Cash, in its very nature, is susceptible to being stolen or lost, whereas a credit or debit card, if it is lost or stolen, you can place a hold on that card or a stop, so you can cancel it, which means essentially that any criminal that has possession of your card is still unable to use it. Therefore, you could say it's relatively more safe than using cash. But how do we make payments if we go abroad? Well, there are four main ways of paying whilst we're abroad. The first one is, of course, taking cash in the local currency. We exchange our pounds for whatever their local currency is, we take it and we use it just like we would cash at home. There's also the opportunity to use our debit or credit card. Most major cards are able to be used across the world, and therefore we can easily use our debit or credit card. Of course, the negative to this is that we might potentially be charged a pretty high commission in order to use our credit card or our debit card, and also the exchange rate that we're offered by our debit or credit card provider may not be that competitive. We can also use a prepaid travel card. Essentially, what this is a card which you top up or load up with currency before you leave home, and you can use it all across the world in whatever currency you're going to be, whatever currency that country uses. And the fourth method, which is perhaps used less nowadays than it has been in the past, is traveller's checks. Now, traveller's checks are issued by banks, and essentially they are offered in usually quite large denominations. So if you go to the United States, for example, you may be able to get traveller's checks for $100, but nothing less than that. And what they do is they're accepted by major hotels and banks in that country, and often some other businesses as well. And you would pay with a traveller's check and get the change back in the local currency. That means, of course, that the business which accepted your traveller's check then has to cash the traveller's check at a bank. So it's a bit more time consuming for them, and therefore they are not as well accepted as some of these other methods. So other key information you'll need to know. Firstly, it would be useful if you knew the definition of what a teller is. Now, a teller is a person employed to deal with customers' transactions in banks, which makes an ATM, an automated teller machine, a teller machine that is automated. We might know it as a hole in the wall or a cash point. Now, Visa and MasterCard are the two organisations, the two payment networks that provide the vast majority of credit cards. Both are American. MasterCard is from New York and Visa is from California. And the way that they make money is they charge businesses a fee on all transactions. So whenever you make a transaction with your credit card, the business will be charged a small fee on that transaction, and that's how they make their money. Other alternatives to Visa and MasterCard, however, are organisations such as Discover and American Express. These are the other two payment systems. However, they generally have much higher fees for the business than Visa or MasterCard, and for that reason, you might find that many places, many outlets, do not accept Discover or American Express cards. So, two multiple choice questions just to double check your knowledge on this topic. Firstly, Jeffrey has used a card to pay for his shopping, using a contactless card, but the money was not taken from his bank account when he checked later that day. Which type of card did he use? Was it A, a cash card, B, a credit card, C, a debit card, or D, an Oyster card? The answer to question 1 was B. Jeffrey used a credit card, which does not take the money directly from your bank account. Of course, if he chose to use a debit card, it would take the money directly from his bank account instantly. Question 2. Loretta pays for her petrol using a card that does not have an annual percentage rate, APR. What type of card does she have? Is it A, a cashback card, B, a prepaid card, C, a reward card, or D, a store card? The answer to question 2 is B. A prepaid card does not have an APR as no money is being borrowed. Make sure you subscribe to this channel to be notified of future videos, including those videos which will help you succeed in the Part B exam. In order to get the next video in the series, hit that banner.